Welcome back to another episode with ByrdAdatto. Today we are actually going to have another guest, but as you can see, there's not a spot for her this moment. But Christie Hutchinson is been a guest of ours, both in the fact that she's worked with a ton of our clients, but also has shot videos before with us with our Access Plus portal. And maybe Michael, you can give a little background on the Access Plus portal before we go forward.
Yeah, no, I mean this actual video that we are going to provide today was originally intended for our Access Plus portal for our members. We provide most of our video, or all of our video content up until 2 weeks ago has been provided to our members. And if you saw our earlier videos, we made a decision with the COVID-19 outbreak that we needed to get information out there. And one way we could do that would be to put these videos out in outside of our portal. And so we are changed course like all of us have done many times in the last 2 weeks, and we'll bring Christie to everyone, not just Access Plus members.
Right. And so here's the video, and we'll have our comments right after the video. So enjoy the video. Welcome back to another episode with ByrdAdatto. Today we have a very special guest. We have Christie Hutchinson. She is an RN MBA, and she is the founder and owner of QCC Healthcare Consultants. We're super excited to have you here today for a host of reasons because of your background. So a lot of times we get phone calls from people who ask us clinical questions, and one of the things we love about your background is that you started off in the emergency department and with urgent care centers. You then, as an RN, progress your way up through the operational side of the arm. So you've actually been on the front line as an RN, but then you also have an MBA that started putting you in sort of the back office at the same time at the front line, trying to make sure you put together the right protocols, training of nurses, imaging centers, etc. So you have a wealth of the clinical side that we at ByrdAdatto, being legal side, don't have. So we're super excited to have you here. So welcome to the video.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a great partnership. We definitely complement each other, so I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And today, what we're excited about is, just as I said earlier, one thing that we always recommend to our clients is putting together SOPs, or standard operating procedures, because that's definitely an area that when people get in trouble, it's because they don't have one. And maybe you can kind of tell me your thoughts about what is an SOP, what are protocols?
Sure, so it's different than a policy. You know, your policy is very black and white. This is what holds the employees accountable to you. A protocol, when we talk about SOPs within the med spa world, is really who and what and how we're doing certain procedures and certain scopes of services. So, I try to break it down into the first section is really about what's for the patient. What do they need to know? So what's the indication for this particular protocol? And by the way, your protocols are by treatment or by intervention. So you would have a protocol for neuromodulators, you would have a protocol for fillers, you'd have a protocol for cool sculpting, and such and such. So depending on the scope of services that you're offering, you could have 3 or you could have 30. And so your first section is about the patient. So what are the indications for that treatment? 2, what are the contraindications? What type of patient would we not do that treatment on? 3 would be adverse reactions. So every patient deserves to know what they should expect when they're leaving. And really in our protocols, we put just the high level ones. We're not doing it very detailed. I always reference them back to either that medications package insert or back to the machine, the manufacturer's owner's operator guide. And then the 4th thing would be pre and post instructions for that patient. Don't drink alcohol for 24 hours before you come in for this procedure. Don't exercise for 72 hours. Just the main highlight things. So that's the first section of the protocol, is really for the patient. Next section is the initial consult. So who's doing the initial screening? Very important. This is where we've seen a lot of people get into trouble.
Yes, and we call this the good faith exam, or otherwise known as the widow maker, when you don't do it correctly.
Yes, so we want to talk about in our protocol who is allowed to do what, according to the state regulations, medical board, board of nursing, that type of thing. And so that section outlines who's doing which part and what it includes, what has to be done during the initial consult. And then the last section of it is really the kind of the general overview. It's not a step-by-step process, although we put a little bit of that in there. But it's, when we're talking about vitamin B12 injections, what are the big things that we need to know? Who's doing what, how, who can do it, what can be delegated to a nurse or to an esthetician. And so that's what the big chunk of the protocols that we're writing.
Awesome. And so because you have this wealth of experience, tell me what happens when someone brings their protocols to you and shows you their protocols.
I really have yet to have anybody show me their protocols. Nobody really has anything in place. And so this has been a great value that I've been able to help them with. And it's been fun all along. But yeah, nobody's ever called me and said, here, can you review my protocols? It's been calling and saying, we don't have any protocols.
And that's what's happening in the industry is we have a lot of people who don't have protocols, and it makes us very concerned because, again, from our position, we're trying to defend them in front of the medical board, nursing board. Not having those protocols makes it very difficult for us. Or even worse, you downloaded it off the internet and you have this beautiful form that sits on your shelf that you've never looked at in your entire life, and there's no substance behind it. So that's where, again, where we see people getting in trouble.
Yeah, one last important point about the protocols, even though, you know, I might be writing them or somebody else is helping with writing them, they're all approved by the medical director, period, the end. That's very black and white. And so even though I write, it goes back to their medical director for full approval, and it's very much a cooperative process as we develop those protocols.
Awesome. Well, first off, lastly, thank you so much for coming. Obviously, those of you who have spoken with her before, you know why we think she's a rock star, and we appreciate the partnership we have with her, bringing her clinical knowledge and business knowledge to you guys, and more importantly to us also, so we learned a lot from her ourselves. So if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to your coordinator, and from there we will look forward to seeing you at our next video. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And welcome back again. And as you can see, what she was describing, and a lot of you may be, especially a lot of our medical providers, as we talked about in the past, you may be closed right now, so you're like, well, updating the SOPs doesn't really make sense to me because I'm closed. But in reality, this is the best time for you. Really, you have extra time. Christie was talking about these are things that you should consider when you're looking at your standard operating procedures. So use this time, since if you are working part-time or you are closed, this is the best time to pull those off the shelves, look at them, make a determination so that when we are ready to go back and get going again, you know that you put yourself in the best position to be compliant. And again, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.